Quiet now, everybody. Quiet, listen to me. We're going to start a show. Now, some of you people have been with me before. You know it's going to be a tough grind. You're going to dance until your feet fall off. You're not able to stand up any longer. But we're going to have a show.
Welcome to today's episode of the Pink Door Podcast. Today we'll be discussing the November 2025 residential real estate market activity in Halifax, Massachusetts. Our mission today is pretty simple. We've got the latest activity report for Halifax, and it covers, everything, single-family homes, condos, townhouses.
All of it.
And we're going to dive in and just give you a fast, thorough overview of the current market climate. We really want to focus on those surprising facts, the contradictions that actually matter if you're thinking about this market.
And we have to set the stage right away. I mean, everything we're about to talk about, every single data point, it's all seen through one lens.
Which is?
Halifax, right now in November 2025, is a deep seller's market. That's the critical starting point. When inventory is this tight, it just dictates everything.
Okay, let's unpack that then.
Yeah.
Starting with those headline metrics that scream seller's market. The first number that really jumps out is the months of inventory. It's at 1.81 months. That number alone tells you almost everything you need to know.
It really does. I mean, for a little context, a balanced market where nobody really has an advantage is usually around 5, maybe 6 months of inventory.
Right.
So 1.81, if no new homes were listed starting today, everything, absolutely everything, would be sold in less than 8 weeks. That's the fuel for this whole environment.
And you see that pressure immediately in the pricing. The sold-to-list price percentage is 98.6%.
Almost 99%.
Which basically means homes are selling for their asking price. You're not walking in here expecting to shave, $20,000 off the list price.
No, that's the seller's leverage right there.
Right.
It doesn't mean every single house gets 10 offers, but it confirms that the market is just rejecting lowball bids. If you're buying, you have to come in strong.
So the other two core stats for November are the median sold price, which is at $537,500, and the median days in RPR is at 16 days. And speaking of RPR, we see that term a lot. Can you just quickly clarify for everyone what RPR actually is and why it's a useful metric?
That's a great question because the jargon can, get in the way sometimes. RPR just stands for Realtors Property Resource.
Yeah.
It's a national database, so it gives us a standardized clock. It measures from the moment a listing goes live in the system until the contract is signed. It's just a really clean, professional way to measure how fast the market is absorbing new properties.
And that speed is 16 days for November. So you just look at those four numbers, it sounds fast, tight, and hot. But this is where it gets complicated.
It really is.
The month-over-month volatility suggests the market is kind of fighting with itself.
It absolutely is. I mean, the report shows these massive swings. Inventory is still critically low, but we saw a 14.22% increase in the months of inventory.
So slight improvement.
A very slight improvement, yeah, but it's coming from such a low baseline. But the truly staggering number is the market speed.
Right, that median days in RPR. It saw a massive 128.57% month-over-month spike. It jumped up to 16 days.
128%. A jump like that suggests a huge change in either buyer behavior or maybe the quality of what's hitting the market. Properties are suddenly taking twice as long to sell.
That sounds like a market that's cooling off then. So how do we put those two things together? Properties are sitting longer, but it's still a seller's market.
And that's the key surprise. A slowdown in speed, rising days on market that almost always signals a cooling market.
But not here.
But because inventory is still under 2 months, that underlying pressure is still crushing the buyers. What it really tells us is that the market's getting choppier. It's getting more selective. Buyers aren't just rushing out to overpay for any house anymore. They're only rushing for the perfect ones.
So to figure this out, we need to zoom out and look at the history, especially on the pricing side, because this is where a major conflict shows up. The median estimated property value for November is $597,700.
And this is such a crucial distinction you have to make.
Yeah.
The estimated value, that's based on models, public records, comps. It shows really robust long-term health. Over the last 12 months, that estimated value is up a strong 5.4%. And if you look back 3 years, it's up almost 14%. If you own a home in Halifax, your equity is solid. It's still growing.
That's the long view. But now we get to the contradiction that would confuse anyone. We just said the median sold price for November was $537,500.
Right. And here's the divergence. While the long-term estimated value is climbing, the actual price of closed sales in November is significantly lower than what we've seen recently.
They're much lower.
The report shows that 537,000 figure is actually down over 15% compared to what homes were selling for last November, and it's also way down from just last month.
That's a 16% month-over-month drop in the median sold price. And this is happening while the long-term value is soaring. If you're a seller right now, that's the number that makes your head spin.
It does.
Why is the actual money changing hands plummeting when the underlying equity seems so healthy?
This is the major takeaway. And the likely cause is a big shift in the mix of what's actually selling. It doesn't mean your home's value dropped 16% overnight.
So what does it mean?
It means that the higher-end inventory, those big four-bedroom homes that were selling for, say, $640,000 a year ago, they just didn't close in November.
So November's median got dragged down because most of the sales were clustered at the lower end of the market, maybe those $450,000 to $550,000 homes.
Exactly. The low median price isn't necessarily a permanent correction across the board. It's a snapshot of what sold this specific month. But we do see other signs of pressure. The median list price is down over 25% over the last 2 years.
25%, wow.
Yeah, that shows sellers have been forced to adjust their expectations down from those peak asking prices we saw back in 2023.
Which, if you're a buyer, that has to be encouraging. It means the market is punishing listings that are even a little bit unrealistic.
It is. The days of listing 10% over market and just waiting for a bidding war, they're over. At least unless your property is absolutely pristine.
That makes looking at the actual transactions from the last 3 months even more important.
Yeah.
So let's dig into what has been selling. Over the last 3 months, it's been a very tight flow. Only 8 new listings, 8 pending, and 10 closed properties. The median sold price for those 10 closings was $545,000.
And if you look at the addresses, you can really see this split market we were talking about. The perfect house, the one with new kitchen, great location, that's selling faster than you can even book a showing.
Right, we see that with 44 Oak Place. It closed for over $600,000 after just 5 days in RPR. Or 139 Fairway Drive, a bigger 4-bed, 4-bath home, that closed at $800,000 in only 12 days.
And those numbers just confirm it. Demand for prime turnkey homes is still incredibly intense, and they're getting solid prices.
We even see that speed on the lower end, too. Look at 25 Ocean Ave. It's a small 1-bed, 1-bath. It closed at $450,000 after just 1 day.
Oh, 1 day.
1 day. And it got a really high price per square foot of $833. So speed isn't just for luxury. It's for any desirable, well-priced property.
And if we look at the pending activity, which is our best crystal ball for future closings, the speed is still there. The median days in RPR for everything that went pending in the last 3 months was only 9 days.
9 days.
Yeah, and you see extreme examples like 553 Montponset Street, pending in 3 days. Or a pricier home, 1 Lamppost Drive, listed over $800,000, pending in 4 days.
So wait, if the median days on market for November was 16 days, but all these desirable homes are flying off the market in 3 to 5 days, what's pulling that average up?
It's the other stuff. It's the inventory that has flaws or is way overpriced or maybe has just been sitting for months, like 26 Old Summit Street that went pending after 179 days.
Bro. Yeah.
The market speed is splitting. It's incredibly fast for the hot listings, and then it's painfully slow for everything else. If you're a seller, that 16-day median is a warning. If your house isn't perfect, you have to price it perfectly.
We should also quickly touch on the properties outside the normal sales cycle. Let's start with distressed properties.
The report noted 4 of them in the last 3 months. 3 were in that early legal stage, newly filed complaint.
And 1 was further along.
And 1 was a notice of foreclosure sale at 22 Hudson Street.
And the speed here is just totally different. The median days in RPR for distressed properties was 148 days.
And that gap is so important for an investor to see. 148 days versus 16. These distressed assets, they move at a whole different bureaucratic pace. They don't really influence the mainstream market speed, but they are a totally different kind of opportunity.
And finally, let's talk about the lease market. This is a tiny part of the report, but the implication here seems huge.
It's huge because there's basically no rental inventory. We saw only 1 new listing for lease in the last 3 months. 1.
Just 1.
Just 1. 23 Lantern Lane, a 2-bed, single-family home for $2,750 a month.
Wow. That's just an absolutely extreme lack of supply for renters.
It does. For an investor, it suggests really high potential for cash flow because demand is clearly enormous. For renters, it means Finding a place to live is going to be incredibly difficult.
Right.
Properties are either getting snapped up instantly, or more likely, landlords are just using private networks to fill vacancies. They don't even need to list them.
So if we pull all this together, what's our final take? Our deep dive shows a Halifax market that's defined by that fundamental seller's market status, but it's also experiencing some major internal conflict.
Exactly. You have this really strong long-term equity growth, up 14% in 3 years, which tells you the area is very desirable. But the short-term reality is, well, it's brutal price volatility. You see that in the 16% drop in the median sold price and that huge spike in how long it takes to sell a typical home.
So the big takeaway for you, the listener, is that this market is not one size fits all. The perfect listings are disappearing faster than ever, which creates this illusion of intense speed across the board.
But it is an illusion.
The second a property has a flaw or is even slightly overpriced, the market is punishing it. It's forcing prices down and stretching out those timelines.
And that leads us to our final question for you to think about. Given the strength of those long-term values versus the short-term dips in what's actually selling, what market correction factors are really driving this? Are buyers just reserving peak pricing for only the most perfect, fastest-moving properties, signaling that everything else now comes with a mandatory discount? That's the dynamic we'll be watching.
If you have any questions about this episode, or if you were thinking about buying or selling a house anywhere on Boston's South Shore from Southie to Sagamore, give Jim Aldred a call. He would love to speak with you and wants to provide you with the guidance and security to help your family move on smoothly. Thanks for listening, and see you next time on the Pink Door Podcast.